Tonight on the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
So what was rock bottom like for you, Ryan?
12 nonviolent felonies. The judge told me, in between my crimes and my trips to rehab, the judge told me if I see you in my courtroom before your 18th birthday, you have these 12 felonies, all nonviolent, but still, that's 3 to 5 years worth of time that, you have racked up. And if you're here before your 18th birthday, I see you one more time, you're going to juvie, and then on your 18th birthday, you're going to prison if you still have time to serve.
The views expressed on this podcast are for informational purposes only and do not constitute professional counseling, therapy, or medical advice. While we discuss mental health topics, the host is not acting as your personal therapist, and listening to this show does not establish a provider-patient relationship. Content may stir up emotions. If you are struggling, please seek professional support. The hosts and producers are not liable for any actions taken based on this content. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911 or go to the nearest hospital.
The Your Life Matters Show podcast is created to bring honest, meaningful conversations about mental health into the open. Co-hosted by Steve Hodgson alongside Indiana licensed psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis, the show blends lived experience with professional insight, creating a space where difficult topics can be discussed with compassion, clarity, and respect. Real stories from real people. Practical and professional mental health education. Compassion-first conversations. Valuable resources and help taking the next step. Please sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy today's topic.
Well, howdy, and welcome to the Your Life Matters Show podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hodgson. I'm here with my co-host, who is a mental gymnastics coach, who is currently winning against my chaotic brain, licensed psychotherapist, Dr. Eric L. Davis. Dr. Davis, we got, I think, a really good show coming up, really good interview, again, about addiction recovery. Yeah. We seem to lean on that a little bit lately, but you know what? That's something that's very prevalent in the world today.
Absolutely. It's one of the most important things in the entire world, recovery.
Yep, exactly. So tonight we're going to talk to someone who had an addiction problem and needed help. Our guest did the right thing by getting help. And if you're listening to our show this evening and you need help, remember, we always say this, you're not damaged, nor should you be ashamed. Okay, so Waypost Counseling is here to assist you with your struggles and helping you take that journey. So let's give a quick listen to them.
January came and went. We are sure you made your list of New Year's resolutions. Then February was here, then March, then April. If you are being honest, they were not resolutions. They were wishes so you would become a better you. For many who are suffering with some type of mental health issue, whether it be anxiety, stress, PTSD, marital issues, female issues, anger management, depression, grief, self-esteem, loneliness, gambling addiction, or substance abuse, any of the other resolutions are going to be difficult to achieve if you first do not make a resolution to take care of yourself first. At Waypost Counseling, we have helped many people begin that new journey even when it seemed hopeless. Some think the only way out is suicide. We are here to tell you, there is help. There is no need to continue to struggle alone. It is time to reach out and ask for help. And we want you to know that is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it is a sign of strength, courage, and a willingness to face the challenges you are experiencing head-on. Do it for those around you, your loved ones, but most importantly, do it for yourself. If you have a computer or laptop, you can get help from the privacy of your own home. There is no need to come to the office anymore. You can get help from anywhere in the United States. Pick up the phone and call Waypost Counseling today. Dial 317-762-0904 or 317-659-0179. You can also visit us on the web at waypostcounseling.com. and request an appointment. Dr. Eric L. Davis, Aaron Davis, and Jeff Gazier are standing by to assist you hit the reset button on your life, your marriage, and help you feel once again that your life matters. You need to take that first step. Call Waypost Counseling right now. You will be glad you did.
Now, tonight's episode is one of transformation, and I mean real transformation. Our guest this evening is Ryan Whittaker. Now, he got sober at the age of 15. Now, let me say that again, 15. And from what I understand, I think he was
15.
drinking at 12, right? Didn't he start drinking at like 12 years old? Now, some people hit rock bottom in their 30s and 40s, or I hit it at age 15. And think about that again. Imagine hitting rock bottom in your life at age 15. Okay, I was more starting to discover girls and stuff at that age, not hitting rock bottom. But even more shocking is by that time he already had 12 nonviolent felonies before he was even old enough to drive legally. Now, which is something most people can't even comprehend, because I have a lot of problems putting myself back to that age and trying to comprehend that. But when addiction takes hold that early, the trajectory can be devastating: incarceration, institutionalization, or even worse.
But on August 14th, 1997, he made a decision that changed everything. He got clean and he stayed clean. And what's powerful is not just long-term sobriety, it's what he's done with it.
Exactly. He didn't just recover, he built something. And he built a company called Sober Water, and donated 40 acres in southern Colorado, which he's dedicated to building housing and treatment options for the newly sober and those that are unhoused. And what did he say? I think it was 29 years sober, and he's building homes for people trying to get their lives back.
Yeah. His motto, end plastic, help people.
So tonight we're going to talk about early addiction, long-term recovery, 12-step philosophy, higher power, business with a mission, and what it really means to turn rock bottom into purpose. So again, if you know someone who's struggling with addiction, or you are, stay with us, okay? Because there is hope in this story. So Dr. Davis, 12 felonies by age 15. What does that tell us about how quickly addiction can escalate?
I mean, if you think about addiction, people will set out to use one time and die. They take the wrong thing, or, it just, with addiction, it can escalate so quickly that, I mean, overnight, someone's life can be entirely the opposite of what it was the day before. It's amazing. It's amazingly sad how bad addiction can escalate and how quickly.
See, we've seen now today, everybody knows the word fentanyl, okay, because the administration has focused on fentanyl. So we now know. But I remember even back in the day, where I was doing any kind of drugs, you worried what it was laced with.
Yeah.
They were using like rat killer and stuff to, cut the cocaine and stuff. I mean, you didn't know what was in there and stuff. And I also used to say a lot, everybody used to say, well, you want to try crack? And it's like, no, that would instantly addict you. Okay, yeah, but so did cocaine. Okay, but the mindset was that. So how powerful is early intervention for adolescents?
It's crucial, because especially in adolescence, that's when people are experimenting a lot, so I mean, having interventions available for adolescents is critical. And really, we don't have enough addiction treatment programs, at least here in Indiana. We don't have enough addiction treatment programs for adolescents. We need more.
I don't think there's, in any state, I don't think that there's enough.
Yeah.
There's still that stigma behind it too. So now they say addiction is an illness only some of us have to deal with. Clinically, how accurate is that?
So clinically, that's accurate as far as the individual with the illness. But, addiction is an equal opportunity destroyer, is how I always say it. It
Mhm.
kills everything it touches, anything it can get its hands on. And so the reality is, if I'm the person that's using and my life is falling apart, all the people around me, that's affecting everyone that I come into contact with. So, clinically that's accurate, but not in real life.
Reality, right? Tonight with Ryan, we're going to talk a lot about, the 12-step program. Okay. How, instead of how, really, what role does long-term community like 12-step play in sustained recovery?
It plays a huge role because, addiction is something that's not curable. I mean, it's not. I wish it was, trust me, I'm waiting on it to be. Um, but I always say that for addiction to be cured would mean someone like me can use in moderation, and
Right.
that's never been an option. So, um, I think that the 12-step programs are important because it provides those of us that have been clean for a number of or for some time. It exposes us to fresh pain, and it also puts us in a position to, welcome individuals that are ready to the world of recovery. I mean, it's such an amazing thing. 12-step recovery is awesome.
I always say to people, they say, you know, just have that one cigarette and stop. I know if I smoke one cigarette, I'm done.
Hmm.
Okay, you might as well just get the cartons. Okay, start delivering the cartons over because you can't just do the one, and you're always addicted to that.
Yeah.
You may have stopped, but you always still have that addiction. So at this point, I want to bring our guest onto a show. So let's welcome Ryan Whittaker to our show. Our guest this evening is Ryan Whittaker. He's the founder of Sober Water and has donated 40 acres in southern Colorado to build housing and support for the newly sober and unhoused. Ryan, thank you for joining us on the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
Thank you for
Hey,
having me.
Yep.
Ryan, take us back to 15 years old, where you were living, your family situation, and what was happening in your life at that time.
When I was 15 years old, that was where the train stopped for this young addict, alcoholic. Same thing, by the way. I have this firm belief that if you took the brain out of the quote identifying alcoholic
Mhm.
and the identifying addict, and you set them on a table next to the non-addict, non-alcoholic, the addict alcoholic brain are the same firings, right? It's just a different delivery system for the drug. I was, coming from a broken home, early childhood violence. I was really trying to cope with that, and my family, had a good setup. My second stepdad, who wasn't as violent, had a good job, but then lost it, and then all of a sudden, I'm 15 years old, spring of 1997, where he's from, in this weird foreign town to me in Western Kentucky. And it was the first time my family had moved from the West. I was born in Nevada, raised in Colorado, Oregon, New Mexico, and all of a sudden I'm 15 in Kentucky. I can't fit in. I find some punk rockers. I got into punk rock music. It was like the only way that I really felt heard or seen, but they were all using, they were all drinking and smoking weed and doing whatever. And some of them were violent. And, so I didn't really have a good group of friends. I didn't really have a good family situation. And I started stealing cars. I had already been to a rehab in my mother's attempt to put me in rehab when I was 12. I had my 13th birthday in a rehab in Denver already. So fast forward 2 years later, yeah, I'd stolen enough cars, broken in enough places. I was arrested 3 times in 97. and went to rehab 3 times in 97. So, I would go to rehab thinking if I went to rehab, probation officers weren't going to come get me because I violated probation for the third time. And they didn't. On that third time I violated probation, I went to my rehab. Uh, that one final long stint. There was one little 2-week period where I went back to the rehab and behavioral clinic for 2 weeks after I had been clean for about, like 4 to 6 months because I just needed another break from my home life. And so anyway, God, that was 15. It was chaotic. It was, 3 rehabs, 3 arrests, but then, 8/14/97 is my sobriety date.
Mhm.
And I'm still sticking to it. I'll be 44 in about 6 days. So if you do the math, I'll have 29 years sober this year.
Well,
And
congratulations.
thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And then fast forward, from 15 to now, I never stopped going to 12-step meetings. I've never not had a sponsor, and then I just have like a huge recovery community. And then obviously turned my um, focus in work and in life, specifically uh, to Sober Water, which is we started 2 years ago. It's a group of shareholders. We're going to sign our 22nd shareholder, and we're still about 21 months old. So we've been kind of adding a shareholder a month, building it just like Liquid Death. But we decided which they have 62 shareholders, and they've been impactful, like culturally and in marketing, but they haven't really been impactful uh, or life saving like Sober Water is, and will be and continue to be. So yeah, that's kind of like where I managed to wind up from 15 till now.
That before I could ask my next question, was that like a pun where you talked about liquid investors, in water?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's all kinds of puns and this and that. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, yeah, I want to go back. You talked about, the nonviolent felonies. I'm curious when you were back that far, were you scared, angry, or just numb, really?
Oh man, my mental health was a war zone. I was angry mainly,
Mhm.
and from what had happened when I was 3 years old, and the violence that occurred from my first stepdad against my mother in front of my eyes when I was 3. He my first stepdad. I won't get into the real rough story, but he used to put us in the backyard so he could beat our mother. You know, stuff like that. That's the most horrific thing you could ever put a child through. Yeah. And so my mental health was a war zone, and my first actual coping, thought, negative, was to commit suicide as early as 7 years old, because this Christian belief came into my life. My second stepdad had us going to church, and they're like, "Well, heaven is amazing." I'm like, "Well, screw this. I've been
Hmm.
through all this shit. I'm 7 years old. I just want to go home to Jesus." So anyway, it was a war zone. Yeah. So scared, angry. Just I had no coping skills. I had no hope. Uh, it was rough.
See, I don't think people realize, adults, I should say, realize when they even just arguing in front of their children.
Oh,
Okay, the
yeah.
children can't comprehend that.
Yeah.
Okay, they start to think it's their own fault, and then they
Mhm.
start to act out based on the situation. Now, obviously, it gets more intense with violence.
Yeah.
When there's violence involved in it. But I've noticed a lot of times on the show, where we've talked to people and, the suicide thing comes right up
Hmm.
because, as a child, they can't really cope with how to do things. I know even myself when I was partying when I was younger, when I look back at it years later, it was reactionary to things that were going on around me. And I
Hmm.
just wanted to escape. And I think Dr. Davis could probably explain that too, probably better than me. Okay, I wanted to escape the situation that I was in. And hey, smoking some joints, maybe doing a couple lines, that took me away from reality for a while.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what was rock bottom like for you, Ryan?
12 nonviolent felonies. The judge told me, in between my crimes and my trips to rehab, the judge told me if I see you in my courtroom before your 18th birthday, you have these 12 felonies, all nonviolent, but still, that's 3 to 5 years
Hmm.
worth of time that, you have racked up. And if you're here before your 18th birthday, I see you one more time, you're going to juvie, and then on your 18th birthday, you're going to prison if you still have time to serve.
Wow.
So the math was mathing. I was
Yeah.
15, and then, if I was 16 the next time I got I didn't want to do my first years as an adult male in prison. But also, the pain was just too much. I wasn't necessarily gonna hurt somebody else, but uh, I was gonna hurt myself, again with the suicidal thoughts, and I don't really my views on bands that I was listening to. Um, this band called Suicidal Tendencies. They're
Hmm.
a punk rock band.
Mike Muir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it ties back into this Liquid Death's marketing is amazing. I don't think the band name Suicidal Tendencies was a good name of a band for me to be listening to. I don't think Liquid Death's marketing is drink Liquid Death and then use this Coffin Cat or whatever like dark boy goth boys makeup so you can look as dark on the outside as you feel on the inside. Market messages. That's literally verbatim what they say. You can watch that commercial still on YouTube. I don't think any of that was good for me. And then Christianity wasn't necessarily good for me either because there was some other stuff. I was molested by the Boy Scouts, troop leader when I was 7, the same year I thought about suicide for the first time. So yeah, my mental health was just a nightmare, and I needed all the positive,
Hmm.
happy. There were these two hippie kind of uh, awesome lesbian women in the meetings, the 12-step meetings when I was, 15 through 16. And started working for them. They taught me electrical. They were just happy people. You go to their house, there's literally a rainbow of colors of paint on the wall, and they were listening to happy, good, feel good music, and we would drive to the next town in Southern Illinois or Cape Girardeau, Missouri, to go to a new meeting or, a camp out. And I needed happiness because I had came from the darkness, and, uh, that's what was the shifting point to pull me out. So it's always been other people in 12-step recovery the whole time, this whole 29 years. Anytime I'm dark, and it could be positive podcasts.
Hmm.
That's why I really appreciate your podcast. The name tells me that I'm supposed to be here. Your life matters. So thanks for
Well,
putting all that positivity in the world.
your story tells me that you're supposed to be here also, as well as hopefully as an inspiration to other people as
Yeah.
well. Now you talked about August 14th, 1997. That was the day that you stopped. What changed that day for you?
I mean, I was in rehab and they told me, you know, to pick a date, a clean date. And I looked at the calendar and I had to put that date. and it was the closest day that I knew of my last use, and I couldn't remember. I relapsed in rehab, by the way. It was a technical relapse. I didn't get super high, but I had my roommate save up his pills that he wasn't taking, and then I took them one day, and we went to rec, and we were playing a game, board game, and he said, that's a relapse, right? You took my pill before we came to this rec room, to play this game. And it just hit me, and I was like, what do you mean? I just wanted to be happy.
Yeah.
So, then I had to go to the calendar and trace back that day, because I was already in there for like a month, and before they're like, yeah, pick a clean date or something, but it was serious. They wanted me to know, oh, you need to have a clean date and you need to have a sobriety date. So 8/14/97 was the last day that I put a chemical into my body to get me high or drunk.
Awesome. So in your effort for your own sobriety, you mentioned that you made 88 meetings in 90 days, and
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the 90 and 90. Why do
Yeah.
you feel like that's such a crucial thing for people in early recovery?
Commitment. I mean, how many drug addicts and alcoholics have, issues with commitment? Like, oh, I can't commit to this job because it's going to interfere with my using. I can't commit to this relationship because it's going to interfere with my using. And it's the first time, I think, in a lot of their lives, if they've never experienced 12-step recovery before, where they come in and they're told, unless you commit to this, you're not going to have the commitment you need to this now, to the 90 meetings in 90 days. You're not going to have the commitment you need for what's coming. And a whole lot's coming. Like
Uh-huh.
you get to the doors of 12-step recovery, depending on who you are. Doesn't really matter who you are. You got a mountain to climb ahead of you.
Mhm.
And that 90 and 90s kind of literally just pouring the concrete on the first step.
Mhm. I
Like
agree.
before you do the steps, there's step 0.
Yeah.
And that's if you want what we have and are willing to make the effort to get it. Then you are ready to take certain steps. That's called step 0. I had this sponsor for like 10 years. He said, that's step 0. If you can't get to step 0, we can't go to 1. So, yeah, that 90 is just, we know you have trouble with commitment, but if you want to save your life and be impactful to those around you and take a minute, you know, and do this, and they got it easy now, right? Because anybody
Yeah.
coming into the rooms at 12-step recovery, they can just log on to a 24/7 365 Zoom meeting, so that's going
Mhm.
on the hour, every hour, somewhere on this globe. Where I had to skateboard, call somebody's answering machine before 5, so when they got off work at 5, they got home, at 5:15, 5:30, they could hear the answering machine message, Ryan needs a ride, come through, scoop me up for the meeting at 6:30 or 7.
See,
So
now,
that's
how
why
much of this, Dr. Davis, is familiar to you?
All of it, every bit of it.
Mhm.
Especially the 90 and 90 where it's, I agree with him 100%. It gives us a crash course, especially back in he and I's day of early recovery when it wasn't online. So,
Mhm.
if you hit 90 meetings in 90 days, especially back then, you learn where all sorts of meetings are, you meet all sorts of people. It's a great crash course in 12-step recovery. It always is. And I mean, it's still recommended today, for the same reasons.
So, Ryan, you always said, don't ever stop going to meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your quota with that. Why do you believe that that's so important for people to know? Because a lot of people, and I'm sure I'm not preaching to the choir here, will say, "No, I'm okay now. I've stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm all right."
Yeah. So, just a perfect example of that, I was talking to a guy at work over the weekend, when we're showing sober water to the world's largest corporations, Walmart, Amazon, Temu, Home Goods, they were all like, yeah, we like it. Here's how we can carry it, and we look forward to it. There's a guy coming over talking to me because he was in recovery, and our name screams, pick me up. It entices curiosity, and most people who buy our waters just want to buy it to help the cause. Our largest water drinkers at Sober Water, who buy our waters, are not in recovery. They want to support the cause, because it's like 10% of America. It's like 30 million or more people identify or don't know they have alcoholism, and it could be more than that, percentage. But this guy comes up and he says, yeah, I used to go. I have 7 years. I hadn't gone in 3 years. Well, my reason for saying don't ever stop going to meetings is because there's two main reasons that stick out. One, the day I stop helping somebody else, the day I stopped doing that is setting me up for a relapse, or B, not being there for somebody else like somebody was there for me. So don't ever stop going to meetings because somebody else needs you like you needed them when you got here. And also, that's just setting yourself up for a possible relapse, no matter if you have 25 years, no matter if you have 25 months, no matter if your credit score is, 850 and everything's been going great for 6 years. Some people, they because they still have the disease of addiction, because it's not going to go away, it's incurable, it can be arrested, right? And we can recover and deal with it. um, it's just too dangerous of a choice, I think, on average, for people to do. But the main thing is, they figured out in the last century, in the early 1900s, before World War II, when 12-step recovery was really hitting the streets of the US, which is where it was invented. It was our greatest gift to the world in the 20th century. 12-step recovery. That's been often said. But they figured out that the only way to counter my disease is to get out of self and help somebody else with theirs. And that's the best way to deal with it. And then you go through that process of discovery with yourself or somebody else, or just being around somebody else. Humans are social creatures. And if you took a non-alcoholic and took them from their family and made them sleep on the street for 100 days and 100 nights, they would be just as mentally messed up as somebody who left their family and stayed on the streets for 100 days and 100 nights, because that is not good. And then, that process of helping each other, it's a self-esteem booster. For some reason, I think addicts and alcoholics, they need extra self-esteem. So if you want self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things. And the most esteemable thing another man or woman can do, is to help another man or woman, save their life. We're in the battle for our life here. If you have a disease of addiction that's trying to kill you.
And I think, Eric, you would agree with that 100%.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, I think that the biggest thing, just from the outside, the biggest thing I always hear someone said, yeah, I'm a recovered alcoholic. And that is like a flag to me, because you're never recovered. Okay. You
Because
still
or cured would mean we could use recreationally.
right.
And
Exactly.
it's like, well, yeah, I know that's not going to work.
Mhm. And we talked about that, remember, a few shows ago, where someone, a friend of mine who had a drinking problem, and had been sober for years. We were at like a New Year's party one year, and he said, "Oh, I can have a drink." Yeah, and I was like, "Not in my house, you're not," because
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one responsible when you start drinking again.
Oh, wow.
It's like, the same way with me. I loved cocaine for a while. I mean, I was a child of that generation in New York City, but I still wouldn't say, okay, I could just do a couple of lines.
Yeah. Going to I was going to meetings, as a teenager, hanging out with other teenagers. The on the lucky months or the few lucky seasons I had where I'm in this small town in Western Kentucky, and another teenager would pop up. Oh my God, because I was the only one besides, my first sponsor who was 17. Obviously, I picked the other teenager in the room to sponsor me out of probably a group of like 30 regulars, right? So everybody else was over the age of 18. Average age was like 30 in those specific 12-step rooms. And, I went to a meeting with this guy named Tim, and we started hanging out. He had a Mustang. He was about 18. Good looking guy, muscular guy, had the world at his feet. Came from a pretty good family. Tim just did not take recovery seriously. He thought it was a joke. My older I have an older half sibling that I was still talking to then who got clean. Me and that older half sibling went to Tim's house. We did what they call a 12-step call, where he called us to go over and find all his paraphernalia, all his bottles, everything he had, and get it out of the house because he couldn't get rid of it himself. Tim took himself seriously then, but then after that, he might have put together 90 days. He probably didn't do 90 and 90. We went to a Mexican restaurant once, and we sat down, and he was this crazy. He said, "I'm going to order a drink right now and see if they'll give it to me because I look 21." And I was sitting there. I'm like 16 years old. I'm like, "You're crazy, dude. What are you talking about?" And he did it. And then the waitress brought the drink. And then I watched that guy pick up that drink. He had like, 90, 100 days. And he took a sip of it and set it down right in front of me. I saw this dude lose his clean date. Okay, fast forward. He didn't make it another few years. He wound up committing suicide because he left the rooms. He didn't take it seriously. And he was, gone far too soon, before the age of 25, killed himself. And, I didn't see him for, I don't know, maybe a year or two before he killed himself. It wasn't long. And then that same town, the year I turned 18, two of my buddies I used to skateboard with and smoke weed with, two of them, not the same day, but the same year, these two kids committed suicide. And I'm going to meetings. I have about 3 years, and Matt Jang and Chris Kaufman in this small town, less than, let's say, definitely less than 40,000 people. Had two teenage suicides. And I remember specifically hanging out with both of them, just the three of us. Before I got sober, and so the disease wants to kill you if you have it. That's its motive. And if you've come close to death or thought about suicide, that means the disease is trying to kill you. That's a clear sign. And it's not up to us as individuals to tell another individual, you're an addict. It's up to them to identify in that first step, and if they don't, or they think it's a joke, they're setting themselves up for an early grave.
Absolutely.
So you got to really say, I got a problem and I want to stop. Because if you don't, you won't have stop.
Yeah, and then the second step, the power greater than me can restore me to sanity. Which then leads into the third step. It's the first time we see the word God, and that freaks a lot of people. They gotta stop at the door. They gotta quit going to meetings. They gotta do anything but deal with that word.
Yeah.
Well, the point of that whole thing is somebody besides you is going to help you because you can't help yourself. That's what I believe that whole power greater than myself thing is. Some people abbreviate the word God as group of drunks, group of drugs.
Yep.
And I need to go to that source to help me. And I've learned there's two. I read this once, but I've learned that it's true in my own life. There's two places we need to go to and go to often: a place that heals us and a place that inspires us. And for me, for this guy in recovery, I can think of no better place to go to at least 3 times a week. And I have almost 30 years It'll be 29 years this August, August 14th. It's not 30, but it'll be 29. You know, I'm going to continue to go to the rooms of 12-step recovery because it heals me and it inspires me. And then so do a bunch of other places like the woods. I'm a big outdoorsman. I like to keep a freezer full of deer. I'm part Native American. I didn't get to do it when I was a kid or a teenager. So I taught myself in my adult life how to do that. I do yoga. I do acro yoga, which involves a whole community of people, and we're we're continuously um, successful in recovery if we stay in community with those that respect and have knowledge of our recovery and are going to stop us before we put a drink to our lips and we think it's a good idea, like that guy at the party. Not in
Yeah.
my house. Hats off to you for that. And that's the kind of people I keep around. Those people that know what's inside me could kill me if I don't stay in community and stay honest and continue down the path of recovery. So,
Well, when did you realize sobriety wasn't enough, that you wanted to build something?
oh, so sobriety individually, like if somebody just goes to rehab and then they get out and they go back to their daily life, um, that's usually not enough, right? So, helping somebody else then becomes the antidote. Staying in community then becomes the antidote, and just the whole time, the rooms of recovery have been grooming me to give back. And when I needed, you know, to change career paths, I was a general contractor forever. Uh, I had acquired this 40 acres in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by 14,000 foot peaks. This was like 4 years ago. I bought that 40 acres and I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And then another member of my local 12-step meeting said, "Hey, let's start a business." And then I came up with this give back business, and that was right on par with what he was thinking. When we started talking about it, let's start this water business that doesn't use single use plastic, that follows the same structure of, a company that's doing 300, 400 million a year of liquid death. And then after our expenses and costs, if there's 100 million, then there's, 34 shareholders. If I am, uh, above 50% of shares and there's 50 million, uh, you know, I could help a lot of people. And my biggest turning point, the one that really, really impacts me on a daily basis, it does it every single day. If you're in an American city, you're going to see all the homeless that our current housing situation has put people in. And the problem is, gas 20 years ago was under $3. Gas now is under $3. Housing went up 200, 400% in that time. And we don't have a housing crisis. We have an empty house crisis. There's 16 million empty or vacant homes in America.
Mhm.
Let's say 90% of them are unremodelable. You can't unrepairable. Uh, there's still 1.6 million houses that are empty. And if an American companies started gearing their profits, donating their profits after they made a million, by the way, like after individual members took a dividend of seven figures annually, and they turned the rest back into help for society, because who else is going to do it? The government, the grants. This is not happening and hasn't been happening. And it started way back. So that's when it really turned for me, is when I see homeless people I need to help. And 9 out of 10 of them are experiencing addiction, and 9 out of 10 of them would benefit. Not that they'll take the option, but they'd benefit from a place that gave them a free, no cost 90-day treatment center in the middle of the Rockies, and then had a sober home for them to go to. Because our company has a dream of buying these empty houses and putting people that were unhoused and newly sober in them for, up to a year and a half, get them back on their feet so they can enter this
That's amazing.
crazy economy we're in. And, if more companies did that instead of building the rockets so they could go to low Earth orbit or this dream to go to Mars, we have to save this planet. There is no planet B. As far as our telescopes can see, there's no planet B. Oh, we'll just go there. It's got the trees, it's got the water. No planet, as far as we can see, has that. And there was one other thing I was going to say. So it's not getting any better for folks, and we have to start building companies for profit that are going to help people and not buy more shiny things or a condo on the moon. So
Yeah.
we're social. We're supposed to take care of our own. I don't know why
Mhm.
there's all this, me, look at me, $100 billion in the bank. And what am I doing for people?
Mhm.
One of the words you use to describe yourself is willing. What does that mean to you to be willing?
To be willing is when someone comes into recovery for the first time, like I did, I had to be willing to do what they told me. Like these people had years clean. And they said, look, we had to be willing to do this. You have to be willing to do this. And these are not unattainable things. Be at the meeting every night. And this was before Netflix. Uh, Dr. Davis and Steve, we didn't, it was not uncommon to make a meeting every night for the first 3 years to 5 years of your recovery. You weren't looked at as avoiding the responsibilities at home because it's just 1 hour a day and then a 15 or 30-minute commute to the meeting and back. So you have to be willing to do that. And then to continue to be willing is, even if I don't want to go to a meeting, if I check my weekly schedule and it's Friday and I've only been to one meeting, well, my current average is about 3 or more a week. I need to go to that meeting Friday. So I need to be willing, even though, things are going okay, this or that. Because again, I'm still showing up for people because they showed up for me when I was there.
Yeah.
I got a two-part question I want to ask you. Okay. First is a simple one, which is why did you choose water? And then the
Oh,
second one, and part two, and you can go into, you made a bold decision to use aluminum instead of
yes.
plastic. Explain that to our listeners.
Okay, so we all know that microplastics are now being found in
Mhm.
the organs of the human body.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's a giant island in the Pacific that's just plastic. We know that Coca-Cola changed their Sprite bottles from green to clear because everybody knew that a green bottle floating in the ocean, millions of them, and green bottles in the landfills that weren't getting recycled, were Sprite bottles. So, in a way to kind of greenwash people, Coke brainwash, greenwash, it's really crazy and insidious how they did that. They changed the green bottle to white or clear, sorry.
Mhm.
And so you wouldn't know that, Coke was the biggest contributor to single-use plastic. Well, sorry, the biggest contributor to plastic period in the environment because they have like 100 brands. And so it's bad for the body, it's bad for the environment. They also put on their bottles 100% recycled. That's not maybe true. I mean, I was working for McDonald's once and they had 100% beef on the box, and they were able to say in their commercial they had 100% beef. That's because they bought the trademark for the name 100% beef.
Beef. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So figure that out.
I've heard that before. Yep.
So the people want aluminum, they want glass, they want something that can go to the recycling bin, and then it's going to come out 100% of what it came in down the recycling line. uh, aluminum will pass through your system. Glass leaves hardly anything in your system, where plastic is collecting in our tissues. And we don't need any more water companies bottling in plastic. It's not good. It just sitting in the sun, a bottle of water they made out of plastic, can react with the sun, the heat, and the UV rays, and then leach petroleum. You know,
Yeah.
trace materials into that water. That's not good. That can cause cancer. Cheryl Crow proved that caused her cancer.
Wow.
She had enough money and enough time to trace her cancer back to a plastic water bottle that she had drank for years, and so it's a bold move. It costs more, but people's lives are worth more. It's sober water. We put people first, water second. Our water's amazing. It only comes from regenerative mountain springs, where the water, is not just pulled from a well. It's not just depleting the water table. This is only regenerative. They actually have to truck our water in, our natural spring water, to the 3 bottling plants, because they're not tapping directly into a city's water source or the well. And then our carbonated water is from the San Juan Mountain watershed, and it's snowpack. Our water was snow last year. Our carbonated water that is bottled in Durango, Colorado, and it's more for people's health and the taste. Also, water tastes better out of aluminum and glass. It's reusable. One quick thing, that aluminum, over 75% of aluminum that has ever been mined since the late 1800s is still in circulation. That's how valuable aluminum is.
Wow.
Even you could even mine a landfill and pull out all that aluminum and still use it.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike plastic, it's worthless.
Well,
At a certain point.
I think we've reached the point in society where we're realizing that now.
Yeah.
That the environment is so important to us that we need to save the environment. And we can go through the whole conspiracy thing, but I think for years, companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they knew about the plastic problems with the bottles.
Oh yeah.
And it's profit, like you said.
Yeah.
And a
And-
good lesson that you said there, which I want to make sure we don't pass. I've been saying this to people for years. If you leave a bottle of water in your car, even if it's wintertime and you're leaving it overnight, okay, and you come back the next morning, there's still like a half a bottle of water here. Do not drink
Mhm.
that.
No. No, because if it has any UV rays or sun, it
Hmm.
heats up at all. It's not good.
Yeah. So I really hope people listen to that, because as you're starting to see now, even with like vaping and stuff, they're starting to see the stuff in the lungs from that as just as well too. Yeah, everybody say, "Oh, it's a great alternative to cigarettes," but
Well,
that we need to worry about not only our planet, but we need to worry about ourselves on top of that.
yeah, and there's now the Swedish nicotine pouch.
Hmm.
No, Philip Morris, the one of the largest tobacco companies on the planet. Their CEO in 2024, the year we started Sober Water, came onto his website, and he said in a video, he says Philip Morris is moving to all non-combustible, forms of nicotine. So if you got to be on nicotine, pouch or gum. There's, it was obligatory to have a cigarette before a meeting in 1997 in
Oh yeah.
Kentucky.
Yes, it was.
My first sponsor worked at a tobacco farm in the summers, and that's just what we did. And then it's funny too. There's a lot of
There were meetings here in Indianapolis that we would smoke at. You could
oh
smoke
yeah,
inside.
there was a church meeting in Mayfield, Kentucky, that I went to several times, where the church had a designated room upstairs where we could close the door and they let us smoke in there. They'd open a window, turn on a fan, and you could smoke in the meeting in the
Wow.
church.
See, I used to
Crazy.
see when I played in a rock band when I was younger. We used to rent the church hall and we used to play it, but they used to have AA meetings over there. So sometimes we were coming in after the meetings, but you could always tell when the AA meeting was still going on because there were
Yeah.
6 or 7 people outside in front of the place smoking cigarettes, you know?
Yeah. And, there's the argument for, well, you guys aren't clean. You're not truly sober because you're on caffeine and nicotine. You're smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. I've never seen a guy smoke a pack of cigarettes, drink some coffee, and go home and beat his wife,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or catch a felony because he was on coffee.
Yeah.
So food itself has a chemical reaction in the body. When we say mind or mood altering substances, we're not talking about what happens when you eat a piece of cake or you eat some warm chicken and it starts activating, the southern comfort food or whatever. It actually starts a chemical reaction. We're not talking about the mind or mood altering, conditions of nicotine, caffeine, or food as the same as uh, sedatives, right? And depressants. Alcohol is a depressant. It's the most potent depressant I could think of, right? And when they do find people that have committed suicide, uh, and they get an autopsy, the ones that they have taken an autopsy on, a blood test on of suicide victims, they've found alcohol in the blood. So the majority of them that they've done a blood,
Mhm.
sample on,
Mhm.
testing on, had alcohol in the blood at the time of the suicide. So we're not talking about, um, yeah, caffeine, nicotine, or food or sugar as a minor mood altering substance because it doesn't make you want to go home and kill yourself. Okay, alcohol and other drugs will,
Yeah.
right? If you're
Yeah.
an addict, because what it does, it stops you from thinking clearly. It feeds into the disease that's already inside you, which is rooted in low self esteem and the dark thoughts. That's the separation. People um, don't usually question it, but I've had some newcomers in my life come in and say, "Well, you guys aren't clean. You're not sober. You're drinking
Yeah.
coffee and smoking cigarettes," and that's just their way or their disease's way of trying to separate them from the people that are trying to save their life and can. So anything we can do, there's
Yeah.
people that come in and they're like, "Well, that 12-step meeting, had some doctors and lawyers in it. I can't relate." Or there's a doctor or
Right.
lawyer who goes to a meeting and says, "Well, that meeting has bikers or strippers and I can't relate." Well, that's that disease trying to get them out of the very group of people that's going to save their life.
Absolutely.
That's not a helpful thing, and that the disease comes up with that.
At the end of the day, it's not the color of your skin, it's not your profession, it's what you're doing.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that should be where the focus is.
and don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
There's people in my life that completely helped me, like this lesbian couple I was talking about, early on in this
Mhm.
podcast, where I came from a dark place. I went to their house. It was definitely not like mine. They both had or about a year and a half and 2 years in, and they had a beautiful home. They were raising their daughter. They painted their walls. They kept their bathroom clean. They had colors galore and decorations. And if you were hungry, they fed you. They didn't smoke cigarettes, but they kept an ashtray at their house for when an addict really needed a cigarette.
Yeah.
And these people saved my life. Saved my freaking life.
Yeah. Let's see. Nowadays, what does success mean to you?
Success to me is anything that doesn't glorify my ego or separate me from my common fellow man and woman uh, financially to the point where I am creating more disparity and a larger wealth gap between myself and somebody else. So, if I die with $500 in the bank and I spent 5 million helping save a whole bunch of people's lives, if I had 5 million to do that, that is my version of success.
Mhm.
It's being able to help other people financially, spiritually, and support a different motive in business than we've seen. I do not glorify people that have $300,000 watches and $3 million cars, because the people that actually made those cars and watches, they don't have stock. People are like, oh, wealthy people are amazing. They create all these jobs for the people that build their cars and their watches and their houses. No, they don't. I was a general contractor for over 20 years. I don't have shares in the houses, the $1 million houses that I put screws and boards and nails in.
Mhm.
Installed a dry aged meat room at the top of the mountain in the ski town Telluride, Colorado. It's a $1 billion property. Because it houses the gondola, it houses a giant like country club, it houses a giant restaurant. It's like a 3-part $1 billion building. When that building sells, I don't have stock in it. If I was building Bugattis or Porsches, I don't have stock in that company, because those companies often don't offer stock to their employees. So the only people that benefit are the people at the top of those companies and top of those corporations.
It's amazing because you're saying everything without saying the one word, and it's greed.
Yes.
And when I talked to, we did a show with Gen Z, and I spoke to some girl. She was like 20 something years old, early 20s. She's a teacher. When I asked her what her biggest concern was with what's going on in the world right now, her answer was greed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most socially acceptable form of evil on the
Hmm.
planet. Greed, it's the most socially acceptable form of evil. So to be successful for me is to get as far away from greed as possible. If my businesses are successful, Sober Waters, my most successful startup ever. My two oldest startups are 11 and 6 years old in San Diego. There's a marketing company I started, and then in Denver there's a vehicle company that I started.
Wow.
And the sober water is by far the most impactful, life-saving thing I'll ever do. And same with all my shareholders and anyone that comes after us. So success is very different today than it's been for a while. But it's a callback to the Roosevelts. Here
Hmm.
were some blue bloods out of the Northeast. Teddy Roosevelt wasn't even paid for years when he was trying to help, the worker and help our country and help establish. By the time he was president, he helped establish all the national parks. I think we have over 50 now, and this is land that can not be developed, not be, um, extracted, exploited,
Hmm.
and so philanthropy is the greatest thing that could ever happen, because what usually happens in a Western society and societies throughout history is the wealth starts to concentrate at the top, because the people at the top, they have sort of a sociopathic, so really they have sort of a
Hmm.
sociopathic antisocial mindset, that they deserve to be there, and the only way they can get there is by exploiting the bottom. And that kind of thinking creates a lot of death, despair, addiction, poverty for everyone below them,
Yeah.
for them to be there. In order to have a billionaire in society, there's millions of people that have to hold them up. And we're in a time where America's population is experiencing some crazy stuff. 60% of the population is living paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
And, the first place to go when you lose your home is your car. But then when you lose your car, the next place you're going to go is the street. And
Yep.
either way, either place, people still living in their homes that are struggling, in order to not think about it, right? They can and will open the door for addiction, which can ultimately kill them. Even if they're not addicts, there's people that just used fentanyl for the first time and died, and they weren't necessarily in need of 12-step recovery. They just wanted a way out of where they were at, economically and financially. Our
It's
company,
escapism.
yeah, our country is creating that more and more as the people at the top need more and more. The average American CEO is now making over 300 times what his average worker did.
All right.
We're creating a country of addicts. We're creating a country of despair and poverty if
Hopefully,
we continue that.
hopefully we start to turn that around, because I think, my generation, I mean, I'm 67. So my generation, I think, is on the way out, which sadly, the mentality was that, you know, I'm a billionaire, you work for me. I see the generation like Gen X and all that, Gen Z. I see that changing a lot.
Yeah.
I see it starting to become more socially responsible. You know,
Exactly. So
yeah.
there's a lot going on where people are saying, "Hey, we're in community, and we're going to take care of each other." In 2026, addiction is widely, I'd say, known now. People, so your average person that isn't an addict, they know that uh, it's a real thing. And that it's not just a choice where one day you can say, okay, I'm going to stop and then not need a whole team of people in the rooms of 12-step recovery, mental health professionals, doctors, people to help you. Like they're saying, yeah, it's a real disease. It needs to be treated. And they figured that out obviously in the last century where, a doctor, many doctors, mental health professionals in the early 1900s were like, this is a disease, because how else could you explain somebody waking up in the morning and having a hard time making a decision to not to not pick up again and destroy their life, uh, you know, the addict has a hard time making that decision. Should I destroy my life, or should I try to survive? You know,
Okay, I want to go into at that time of the show, which we call
It's the lightning round.
the lightning round.
okay,
Okay. We made it easy, as I told you earlier, before we started. There's only 5 questions this time. Usually Dr. Davis gets stuck with like 10 or 12 when we do this. But just, a couple of words or short sentence answers. The first one, mountaintop or ocean?
mountaintop.
Number 2, who's your favorite sober celebrity?
It changes, but I would say possibly. Oh,
That was a tough
man.
one even for me when I'm
Yeah, because I love so many of them, but um, Mike Ness from Social Distortion.
okay.
Yeah, he's been sober since the 90s, I believe, maybe 80s. He's got probably 40 years or something. And then he sings about, his recovery. So probably Mike Ness from Social Distortion.
Okay. What's your favorite city and why?
My favorite city is Durango, Colorado, because we carbonate water there, and it's the best carbonated water I've ever had.
All right.
This is a little bit of a silly question, but a yes or no. Shoes in the house.
No shoes in the house, absolutely not.
Okay, and this is a really a good one. Finish the sentence. Sober is
Life.
good, good,
I
good.
like that.
Yep.
Speaking of sobriety, obviously, so, like we were talking about earlier, sobriety has kind of, become more of a media darling. in more recent years. Why do you feel like sobriety is cool, right? Cooler right now than maybe in other times?
I'd say because the live fast, die young, and leave a pretty corpse mentality is not, jiving with most
Yeah.
people today. They want their father, they want their mother, their daughter, their brother, their sister in their lives.
Hmm.
And when they find out that their brother's an alcoholic or their mother is an alcoholic, uh, they know that sobriety is going to, if they stay sober, if their family member stays sober, a friend or associate or whatever, leave them a chance to be on earth longer. And I think that it really resonates with people now that, yeah, to stay alive and be sober is cool. To live fast, die young, and leave a pretty corpse is not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Most people, I think, have been affected now and
Yeah.
really have been able to identify the disease of addiction since it is in the spotlight. It's such a prominent, like you said, media darling. People are educated now
Hmm.
that, oh, so and so's not crazy, not lazy. My father loved me. He was just an alcoholic. So sober and sobriety and the 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 movement of being sober is much happier and brighter for all involved
Now
because
you
people
okay?
with addiction and sobriety, we affected so many lives,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's better
Now
for everybody.
you've told us a lot about sober water. How can people find out more about sober water, and where can they purchase it?
They can go to soberwater.org and buy sober water directly from us on our website, or they can go to drinksoberwater.com, which takes them to soberwater.org. And then there's a list of current places where we sell it. And we're in about 6 states now. The large retailers are starting to pick us up after our meetings with them in Dallas just this last weekend. And we hope to make it available, nationwide in every state in the next few years. And then we are continuing to take on shareholders. We're at 22, Liquid Death's at 62. And if we get even anywhere close to what Liquid Death did in their volume,
Hmm.
we can help more people than any beverage or food company ever has.
That's amazing. If someone is watching tonight and they feel stuck in addiction, what's your message to them?
My message to them is call somebody ASAP. Go to a meeting. Uh, go somewhere uh, and be with people. Find a
Yeah.
community. Talk to somebody. Talk to a doctor, psychiatrist, or therapist. If you have insurance, you're privy to all that.
Mhm.
Start addressing it as soon as you identify
Yeah.
that you're in trouble. Uh, Another person is always willing to help 24/7 if someone is willing to look and get
Mhm.
themselves out of that darkness. But that person who's in a dark place must be willing to abandon what they think or feel
Mhm.
and do something to save their life or get out of that dark place.
And remember, there is no, we've seen this every week on the show. You're not damaged. Okay. There's no sin in looking for help. Okay. And asking for help. And
I
I
love
think
that.
that's the biggest problem. A lot of people realize that they need help,
Yeah.
but number one, they either don't know where to turn to, or number two, and probably I think the biggest thing, especially in society today, they're afraid to go.
Yeah.
How
And
they're
I,
going to be labeled and stuff, and they, oh, him, oh yeah, he's the alcoholic or something, drug addict.
oh yeah. And I got a few more minutes, by the way, guys.
Hmm.
The one thing I've seen in American society is if you ask for help,
Mhm.
you're not strong.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And this American economy and capitalist mindset uh has killed people. because it
Yeah.
infiltrates the very individual and says, if you can't do all of this by yourself, create an empire by yourself and handle all these things internally, then you're less of a person.
Hmm.
You're not as smart. You're not as resourceful, and it's a lie. It's all this lie that the Lone Ranger cowboy mentality of everyone should be able to just, you know, go through life and handle everything and respond and react and do all these things as if they were a movie star and knew everything to do, and it's just it's crazy, but that's what it does to people,
It's always cracked me up because I always say it's like if controlling, for me, if controlling my use was possible in the beginning with my own willpower, it wouldn't have been a problem in the first place, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and if we were all these, if every man and woman in America was able to just handle everything themselves, we wouldn't have a family. We wouldn't have friends. We would,
Yeah.
you know, be that Mad Max on the dirt road, fixing our tire before, the the group of vigilantes are coming to kill us. Like this is not how humans are supposed to live as portrayed, in Mad Max. We all need each other. We've never not been social because our brains were always wired to be social.
Mhm.
Why and also why would all these famous people now be reaching out and to other famous people and helping them save their lives, like the story of uh, you know Bradley Cooper helping Brad Pitt,
Right.
or Mel Gibson helping Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
It takes two in the beginning, and then it takes a community to sustain mental health and recovery. This is not the human brain was not designed to operate alone all the time, or any of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's the reason why we do this show. It really is that's
Yeah.
the whole purpose behind it. Ryan, I want to thank you for your honesty today. Your
Yeah,
story is proof that rock bottom doesn't have to be the end, and it can also be a great beginning.
Yeah. Your willingness and long-term commitment to recovery are powerful examples of what sustained change really looks like. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
We appreciate you being here. We wish you amazing success with sober water and especially
Mhm.
with the building project too, as well.
Yeah.
thank you both. Thank you both.
Yep.
Yeah, felt honored, and thank you for putting your light out to the world and your very name.
Yep.
Your life matters, and if you're listening to this, your life matters, no
Yep.
matter who you are. And
Exactly.
this is a good thing we're putting out today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Well, Dr. Davis, you hear a story like Ryan's, 15 years old, 12 felonies, and now 29 years sober. What does that tell us about the possibility of change?
That changes is absolutely a possibility. I think a lot of times, especially when things are bad for individuals, we think, oh, there's no point in even trying, things won't get better. But the reality is, if I didn't believe things could get better, I would never have chosen to be a therapist. Never in a billion years. So, um, change happens every day. I see it all the time. And the reality is that within reason, anyone can change anything. I mean, that's the only thing stopping me from changing if I want to change is me.
See, and that's what I think for as an outsider to the 12-step program. I think it's so important because even someone who's coming into the program sees someone like Ryan, who's been 29 years and still goes to meetings and
Yeah.
still stuff and realize that, hey, wait a minute, where I think, oh, hell with this, I ain't gonna, I'm gonna relapse. I want that drink again.
Hmm.
And you see someone, this isn't gonna help me. And then you see someone like that's been there for 29 years,
Yeah.
who's been clean and sober, and done something with his life, turned his life around. That's got to be a good incentive to
Yeah.
say, hey, you know what? I want to do that. And I commend people like Ryan who still go back, not only for the meeting, but want to help other people.
Yeah.
Like he said, he wants to help other people. He wants to live, obviously, and be able to support himself, but he doesn't want it from greed.
Yeah.
He wants to help people. So we hear a lot about relapse rates, stats from all of that. From a clinical standpoint, what separates someone who stays sober long term from someone who struggles?
So a couple of different things. The first thing is the effort that they make, the action that they take behind their intention.
Mhm.
So recovery really is kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing where it's important that the person in recovery stays connected to their support network, their recovery principles, all that on a daily basis. The other thing would be that connection itself, in that the individuals that, everybody struggles from time to time. Um, but individuals that have made recovery an integral part of their life tend to have an easier time sticking with it, than individuals that don't have, the recovery resources or the support system around them.
And I hope this shows like this and the other show that, addiction isn't really a choice. Sometimes it's, this is actually a problem. It's an illness that we deal with. And it's not just a matter of, well, just don't drink. Okay. It's
Right.
just,
Yeah.
it's not as simple as that. Or, don't smoke that joint or snort that line. It's not
It's a
as
lot
simple
that
as
goes
that.
into not doing it.
Yes, exactly. So, Ryan, as I said, he keeps going back to meetings, community, willingness, So how crucial is that sustained community in helping people in their long-term recovery?
It is critical. I mean, really, because you have to have a foundation, and by those, as far as 12-step recovery goes, those meetings being available, all the time, everywhere. I mean, that is what a resource. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if medical care was like that? Like, anytime, like, oh man, I feel a little stuffy. I'll just
Right,
log on and speak to, like, I mean, that would be such an amazing thing. Um, but recovery is about community and recovery is about connectedness.
right. And you said, and it is such a thing, like he said, 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
There's always a meeting somewhere and stuff that you
always.
can go to. And so instead of even waiting, trying to call your sponsor and maybe not getting him on the phone, him or her on the phone right there, okay, you just go right into a meeting when you're feeling
Yeah.
that. You're just right there, right from your house. Within a minute, you log in and you're there. And the only warning I say to people is make sure you're dealing with a reputable organization
Mhm.
and stuff that you're going for help from.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anybody, any podcast or anything, but there's a lot of people out there that, went through a little bit now suddenly think that they're qualified,
Mhm.
to helping
Yeah.
others. And, I want to make sure that, if you reach out for help, that you get help from the right place.
Yeah.
So, and finally, I'm going to ask one final question. Now, if someone's watching tonight and they feel like they've really gone too far, they've made many, many mistakes, but still haven't seeked out help, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, there will never be a better time to reach out for help than right now, this moment. You know, um, help is out there, it's available. There are resources available to help people pay for help. Um, you know, it's help is literally one question away,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just encourage anyone, if you're struggling or if you're um, having a hard time, please reach out to somebody. Call 988,
Right.
call 988, the crisis line, and
Yeah.
speak to somebody.
So again, we want to give a special thank you to Ryan Whittaker for joining us here tonight on our show and sharing his amazing story with us. Remember,
Ryan got sober at 15. Think about that. While most teenagers are figuring out high school, he was fighting for his life.
you know, what I was about to say there, and
Oh,
then I
sorry.
don't want to. No. What I was going to say is to remember sober water, folks. It's soberwater.org, or like he said, there's many places you can go on to Amazon and stuff too, and look for it. You can find it. A lot of places you can find it in the stores now. So if you want to help support not only the environment, but to help in his thing of anti-greed, as I call it,
Yeah.
really look up sober water and help. Because now, 29 years later, he's building homes for people who are just beginning their journey. That to me is what long-term recovery looks like. It's not perfection, it's not fame, it's not ego, it's just willingness.
Yeah. If you're struggling tonight, call or text 988. Do it right now. Always remember that recovery is possible. And if you're in recovery, keep going to meetings, keep showing up, and keep being willing.
And we're going to say that every single week. You're going to hear Dr. Davis make that same paragraph every week because that's so important. So please also remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, leave us a comment. We've been actually answering a bunch of the comments back. That all of this helps support the channel so we can get the message out to more people. And remember, you can visit our website at yourlifematterspodcast.com for more information about the show and how you can become a guest on future episodes. Remember, Ryan's story came through our website. Okay, we didn't find him, he found us. We'd like to hear what your story is all about and maybe have you on an upcoming episode.
Absolutely.
So, as we end today's conversation, take a moment to reflect on how far we've come. Please keep that light shining and remember, your life matters. God bless you. We hope to see you again next week for another great episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this week's new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Please be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode with your hosts, Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so, and hit the like button and leave a comment. Your help with this helps us reach a wider audience that may need our help.